Good morning and welcome to my YouTube video about homelessness. This is video number 5. Today I want to talk about very specifically about trailers. Governor Newsom in California announced last week that they were going to purchase thousands of trailers with the idea that they would move people out of tents and off the streets into these trailers. Now, I've heard a lot of boneheaded ideas. This takes the cake. This is about one of the worst ideas that you could possibly get into. For example, if you purchase 30,000 trailers, the idea is that you'll get 30,000 people off the street. How are you going to do that? You're going to force them? Is it going to be voluntary? Do people apply? I think that if you were to put up 30,000 trailers, you would hardly make a dent in the population on the street. Now, there will be a take-up on those 30,000 trailers. There will be lots of people coming forward to claim one, to claim that they're homeless. And since you can't prove a negative, you're going to be admitting lots of people who are not living in tents. And the whole situation is just going to be exacerbated. The people living in the trailers will never ever want to move out. And the minute one becomes vacant, there will be somebody on a waiting list to get that. So they will become permanent in every sense of the word. And you will have instant slums because these trailers are very poorly constructed. If they're going to use the same ones that FEMA uses, these are low-cost, very basic trailers. And the challenge will be also that you have to hook it up to water, electric, and sewer. If you don't have those 3 utilities there, then they will not be habitable. Then they will be just a step up from tents. They really will not be a big improvement. The government will suddenly find itself in a position of being landlord. They currently are not in that position with the tents and the tarps. But once the trailers are set up and they admit people in there, they have all the obligations of a landlord. So that means that each resident of each trailer can expect the peaceful use and enjoyment of their premises. So if a neighbor is causing disturbances, or is throwing their trash out the door, or is not curbing their dog, or other violations, things that a normal landlord has to deal with, then the government, being the landlord of these trailers, will have to step in and will have to address that, which means you have to evict somebody if they don't change their behavior. The trailers will also have to have streets and addresses because like any residential home, the emergency services, the 911 system, they have to be able to find people in case of a medical emergency or fire or other problem. So they're going to have to be organized in that sense. Then you're going to have a whole lots of issues around security because some people will want to set them up as dealing drugs and other nefarious activities, and the government will have to oversee that as well. Again, I estimate that if you have 30,000 trailers, you might reduce the street population by 2,000 or 3,000. But that'll backfill up pretty quick, and it'll be another major draw for people to come to California. And they will become permanent, they will become slums in the sense that I've lived in a trailer when I did volunteer work. There is a lot of maintenance required. There's systems that break down constantly, and for 30,000 trailers, you'll need at least 200 handymen to run around fixing things. So that's an added burden on the taxpayer. And it's just going to be a real boondoggle. I can't see it. Are they going to set an age restriction? Do you have to be over 21 to live in one? And are they going to be self-selected? Do people get a choice as to which of the many sites they'll choose to stay in? And will there be transportation needs? Will they be kind of isolated so that you have to have a shuttle bringing them to the downtown areas so they can panhandle? All of the problems will individually have to be addressed. I don't see that it's going to bring about any long-term solutions at all. In the last video, number 4 out of the 5, I talked about battered women. I was asked by somebody after that about whether there is domestic violence in same-sex relationships, and the answer to that is yes. We did not see many gay men coming into the shelter seeking refuge from an abusive partner, partly because of pride, partly because there were no children involved and so forth. So, and you know, men don't come forward with those kind of needs. There are men who are battered by their female partners, and but again, the evidence on that is quite anecdotal from where I was. But in terms of the lesbian partners, we saw quite a bit of abuse there. Whether it was higher than the heterosexual relationships or comparable, I don't know, but I know as a fact that we had quite a few same-sex women coming in, fleeing an abusive partner. Anyways, this is my video for today. I just wanted to put my thoughts into why the idea of using trailers is a bad idea. The other day, this is a back of the envelope, literally. The other day, I substituted the word homeless for other words that I've heard over the years. And all of these words were used at one time or another, and some are still used today. I heard the word drifter, vagrant, vagabond, transient, hobo, rubby, which is for people using rubbing alcohol, bum, which is the one they hate the most, NFA, which is often on police reports and that, no fixed address, panhandler and beggar, squeegee kids, derelict, street kids, tramps, and itinerant. Lots of different words and language. I'm not advocating any of those. I know that there's a push now to use the word undomiciled. The reason I throw this list out is because it points to the complexity of who the homeless are and why they are where they are. Again, my view is that all of the cities need to take a very hard line in enforcing their no camping ordinances. People who camp in the city limits need to have a permit. And if they don't have a permit, you need to go in and you need to remove that. You will need shelters. The shelters will need to be properly staffed and maintained and have the full range of services to meet people's needs. And I think if you go in and forcibly remove all the tents and lean-tos and so forth, I honestly believe that half of them will just disappear. They won't show up anywhere. They'll just make their other choices. People do have choices. There's a lot of in and out in the homeless population. When I operated the system in Toronto, we estimated as much as a 500% turnover per year. So for every one person today, over the course of the year, would be 5. So there's a lot of turnover, and if you remove those encampments, a lot of those people will simply make some of their other choices and you won't see them again. Those who can't do that anymore, you need to have shelters. And those shelters all need to have options for where they put people, whether it's in an old age home or lodging homes for people that have mental health issues and so forth. But leaving them on the street is not an option, and putting them in trailers is a really, really poor idea. Thank you.